Hello, my name's Sylvia and I work for Barnardo's and I'm the manager for Kirklees Young Carers service. And I'm here to talk to you today on Carers' Rights Day about young carers' rights. So if you're an adult watching this film, then I hope it will help you to recognise and identify young carers that you might know or work with. And if you're a young person, it might help you to consider, oh, maybe I'm a young carer, and to help you to understand what your rights as a young carer are. So first of all, what is a young carer? You're a young carer if you're under 18 and you help to look after a relative, generally a parent or a brother or sister, because they're living with a disability or an illness or a mental health problem. Or sometimes, and young people can find this hard to talk about, you might be caring for somebody with an alcohol or a drugs-related problem. You might do extra jobs around the house, like cooking or cleaning or helping somebody to get around the house. Or you might help with a brother or sister getting them ready for school or even taking them to school. Some young carers give a lot of physical help to a brother or sister who is physically disabled or unwell. Along with all the other jobs that you do, you might be giving the family member emotional support. And what we mean by this is, you might be sitting with them, listening to them when they're feeling lonely or worried, or just being there for them and providing that emotional support. So do you have any choice about caring? It's a good question. Some young carers grow up caring, so they don't know any different and they don't even know that they are a young carer. While for other young carers, they might become a young carer overnight if the family member suddenly becomes unwell or maybe has an accident or some other unforeseen circumstances which change the situation of the family and mean that the young person takes on a caring role. So if somebody in your family needs help, support and care, you might be really happy to do that. It's part of family life to care for each other, isn't it? But as a young person, you shouldn't be doing the same things as adult carers or doing the jobs that paid workers should be doing. Neither should you be spending a lot of time caring for somebody because you've got other things going on in your life, like school and being with your friends and doing the things that you're interested in and being a young person. So it's important for you to be able to make the decision about whether or not you want to care and how much caring you want to do and what sort of caring you want to do. Whether you're willing and able to be a carer and whether you want to care at all. And sometimes, of course, because you're a child or a young person, you might not be the right person to be providing that care. And that's where your rights come in. All disabled adults are entitled to support from their local authority. So children and young people shouldn't have to care for them. So if you are caring for a family member, you have rights. And one of the most important rights you have is your right to an assessment. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what this means. An assessment is basically like a load of questions where the person doing the assessment, who might be a social worker or a young carer support worker, ask you lots of questions about the different areas of your life, like your school and home life and how you're feeling and the type of caring you do. And they're not just asking you that because they're nosy and they want to interfere. They're asking because they're trying to get an all-round picture of what your needs are, how much caring you're doing, and what sort of impact, if any, that's having on your development and your well-being as a child or young person. Some people worry about assessments and about certain workers coming in and finding out about what's going on in families, but These people are here to help and to provide support for your family. So it's really important that if you're having an assessment, you try to tell the person doing the assessment exactly how it is for you. And they're not here to make things more difficult. They're really here to understand and try and get the support in place, the support that you need as a young carer. So they might ask you things about your education and the sorts of things you like doing in your leisure time as well, to try and get, a picture of who you are exactly. And remember, you have a right to this assessment. You and your parent can also decide if there's anybody else that you'd like to be consulted in this assessment, somebody who might be able to give more information about the family situation. So, for example, it might be a grandparent who knows you really well and helps to support the same family member. Once the worker has done the assessment and put all the information together, you also have a right to see that assessment and to read what's been written about you and what people's opinions on your needs are. And that's what the assessment's about, really, because it helps to decide whether you're entitled to support, and if so, what sort of support you and your family might be entitled to. So sometimes it might be getting support in for the parent, and that will help to reduce your caring role. Or sometimes it might be support for you as the young carer, and that is very often provided by a young carers service such as Bernardo's. Although there are other organisations who provide support to young carers as well, and it might be local youth groups or other charities. There are a lot of sources of support out there, and sometimes the assessment is a way of unlocking those sources of support too. So try to remember, an assessment is a great thing. It's your right, and it's sometimes the best way of finding out about what support is available for you. A lot of young carers feel very isolated and alone in their situation. And I've met so many children and young people who say or think, I'm the only person in this situation. But believe me when I say there are hundreds of young carers in your area, and across Europe there are thousands and thousands of young carers. And that's why for Carers' Rights Day, I wanted to share with you some information that comes from young carers all across Europe. So I'm going to share the screen with you now so that you can have a look at a really interesting website called MeWe, and that's a short way of saying mental well-being. And it's about some research that's been done in Europe, and at the very heart of this research is young carers' voice or voices, because that's so important. So if you're interested, you might like to have a really good look at this website and read some of the experiences of young people in this country, but also in places like Italy or France or other places in Europe where young people are experiencing very, very similar situations within their families. And what we know and what we tell young carers is that by telling your story and sharing it, it can really help. So I'm going to share the screen now. Bear with me a minute and I'll talk you through it. So I hope you can see the screen here. You can see the top here. It's called Me, We, You. EU stands for Europe. The page we're on here is about carers' stories. So you can see some of the headlines here. I didn't realise I was a young carer until I was 19. And then there's another girl saying, I lie here quietly. When the world outside has gone quiet, perhaps if I just lie here, everything will be fine. Perhaps if I just lie here quietly, maybe, just maybe, nothing will happen. Perhaps my mind will stop spinning endlessly. Perhaps I can trick my mind, my racing thoughts, that I'm still sleeping. Perhaps my body will relax and not be so stressed. So some real life accounts of how young carers feel and what their worries are. There's another one here about caring about a sibling. What about us? What about the people who care for siblings, brothers and sisters, and this is from a girl called Jessica in Sweden. So some really interesting stories that you could have a look at. I'd really encourage you to have a look at this website, MEEU, and you can see here, am I a carer? Let's see what happens if we click on that. Am I a carer? Do a number of the following points apply to you? And here we go, some of the things that we've already talked about. Shopping, helping with bathing, dressing, toileting, doing the cooking. Keeping the person you care for company, for example, sitting with them or reading to them or talking to them. So to finish really, I've talked to you about carers' rights and your right to an assessment and the fact that the assessment will open up a lot of support. And if you Google young carers, you'll find all sorts of support out there. Watch this space because very soon there's a young carers app going to be launched in your region. So if you come back to the place where you found this film in a couple of months, then there will be details about the app. And finally, I'd encourage you to have a look at this booklet for young carers because there's so much there and it's written by young people for young people. So, you know, probably much more engaging than an older person like me could be. So let's just stop the share there so I can say goodbye to you. So it's been lovely talking to you, adults, children, young people alike. Yes, that's it from me. So a bit of a strange thing to say, but happy Carers' Rights Day. You have rights, so please exercise them. Okay, bye then.